Hello, grade 10 math students. So last lesson we talked about solving these systems of equations with substitution. And remember, a system of equation is going to have essentially two linear equations in it. And that when we find that solution, that's really, if I were to graph these two lines, that's where they're going to cross, okay? So in yesterday's lesson, or last class's lesson, depending on how quickly you're moving through these, we talked about how you're going to need to either have a y equals equation or an x equals equation, and then you're going to substitute a value into the other equation. And if you're getting really confused, go back and watch yesterday's lesson. So today's lesson is going to be, what do we do if neither of the equations that I have looks like an x equals or a y equals equation? So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to isolate our variables. So we're going to either isolate x or y in one of the equations. So I'm going to actually isolate x in my first equation. So in equation 1, I'm going to isolate, and remember that isolate just means that we're going to get it by itself, okay? I'm going to zoom this in a little just so I have more room. All right, so here I had my equation, and you can go back and pause it and rewrite them, but my equation was, in my first one, x plus 4y equals 6. So I essentially want to get x by itself. So if I'm looking here, I can see that I have plus 4y, and the way that I move plus 4y to the other side is to subtract it. And if I subtract it from one side, I have to subtract it from the other. 4y minus 4y leaves me with x, and this is going to equal 6 minus 4y. Okay, so I've just isolated. So now, because I've changed how this equation looks, I've changed how my first equation looked. It looks way different now. I need to relabel that. This is going to become equation 3. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did before. So in my step 2 here, I'm going to substitute this equation into the other equation. So I'm going to substitute 3, so equation 3, the one that I just made, into equation 2. Okay, so instead of having 2x minus 3y equals 1, now I'm going to have my 2. Instead of an x, every time I see an x, I'm going to write 6 minus 4y. Minus 3y equals 1. And just remember that equation 2, it's right here if you need to scroll back up and see it. So the original equation was 2x minus 3y equals 1. And now instead of having an x, I've replaced that with what I got here. Okay? So I need to simplify this a little bit, and that's what's going to happen in the solving portion. So I'm just going to rewrite this right here. I have a bracket, which means I need to do distributive property. I need to multiply it out. So I'm going to do 2 times 6, which is 12. And then I'm going to do 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8y. The y comes along for a ride. Rewrite the rest of the equation as we see it. So negative 3y equals 1. I'm going to collect my like terms. So negative 8y minus 3y, that's negative 11y. And I still have my 12 here, equals 1. Okay. And I want to have positive y's. Like, positive y's make my life work so much easier. So I'm thinking to myself, how can I turn this negative 11 into a positive? Well, I could move that to the other side to make it positive. So this is the same thing as saying 12 minus 11y plus 11y equals 1 plus 11y. My 11's cancel. So I'm left with 12 equals 1 plus 11y. Do you guys see now how this is positive? My life is going to be way easier. I just need to get rid of this 1 now, so I'm going to subtract it to the other side. And 12 minus 11 is going to be 11 equals 11y. And I need to divide by 11 because I'm multiplying by it. Y equals 1, okay? So that's what my y equals here. go back and rewatch that if that was too fast for you, so you can slow it down. So this is what my y equals. Now I need to find, so I know what y equals, I need to find x. I'm going to pick any equation that was here. So I'm going to substitute y equals 1 into equation 3. Okay? So I'm just going to rewrite my equation because it's already set up as x equals. So that lets me know what my x is going to be. 6 minus 4y. And now instead of writing a y, I'm going to replace it with the 1 that I found. Okay? X is then going to equal, if I'm looking here, 4 times 1 is going to be negative 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Okay? So my x is going to be 2 whenever my y is 1, and that's what this is telling me. Remember, for these equations, you should always get 2 answers. You need an x and a y. So what this means here is that my point of intersection, remember x comes first, is going to be 2 and then 1. Okay, so that's my answer here. This is my POI. So how do I know that this is completely correct? Well, I know this is correct because I'm going to end up substituting that point of intersection into my equation. So this is 2 and 1. So on my left-hand side, I had x plus 4y. I'm going to sub in x equals 2, y equals 1. And on my right-hand side, I had 6. I don't have to substitute anything in there. So now, remember, substitute just means replace. So every time I see an x, I'm going to replace it with 2, because that's what I found, plus 4. And every time I see a y, now I'm going to replace it with a 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. And my right side and my left side, those are equaling each other, 6 and 6. That means the same thing. So my left side equals my right side, math smiley face. So that was for my first equation. Now I'm just going to do a quick checkaroo with my second equation. And we said that it was 2 and 1. So I'm going to, on my left-hand side, I have 2x minus 3y. On my right-hand side, I have 1. I'm going to sub x equals 2, y equals 1. So every time I see an x, I'm going to replace that with a 2. Every time I see a y, I'm going to replace that with a 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. And again, my left side and my right side equal each other. 1 and 1 are the same number. Math smiley face and a check mark. So you're going to do a couple of these questions today where you have to rearrange it. Please feel free to go back, watch the video. I've put extra resources in there. Don't forget that if you need help on something, just open that Google Doc that's on our timetable there, on our schedule, and type in your question and I will type it back to you. Okay? I hope you guys are having an awesome day.